What's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarus.
Question of the night. Should you see Ghostbusters Afterlife? We'll tell you because we get Nerdy Nightly.
And we thought we'd share with you.
That is right. The long-awaited sequel to Ghostbusters 2 that is not a sequel to Ghostbusters 2016, but is another sequel to Ghostbusters 1984. Because that's how movies work nowadays. We just keep calling them the names and we give them different years.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But this one was nice enough to give us a subtitle in the name, Afterlife, which at first I was like, why? Is it just because there's ghosts in it? And then you see the movie and you're like,
Oh, gotcha.
This is a non-spoiler review.
Yeah.
We might talk spoilers at the end, but this is a non-spoiler review.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the question is, should you see it?
Sure.
I think that is the most honest answer.
Yeah, sure.
If you like Ghostbusters,
go for it.
you might like this movie.
Yeah. Do you have to rush out to see it in a theater?
No.
But
That's the review. Bye, everybody.
That's it.
No, let's say why. Because I want to get into it. This movie is very interesting to me because it's good.
It's fine.
It's well made.
Yeah.
It's shot beautiful. Like, the cinematography's gorgeous.
They did a great job.
Jason Reitman takes over the directing reins from his father, Ivan Reitman, who directed the originals. And this movie sees the grandchild of Egon Spengler come to his farmhouse. And to talk about any of the why of that is a spoiler to basically what is the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
But McKenna Grace stars as the young granddaughter. She's fantastic in this role.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Finn Wolfhard plays her older brother. He is in the movie.
Yeah, he's more like a secondary character, I think.
He wasn't given a lot to do.
No, he had no, arc or growth or anything. He just, he had some, funny bits, and he delivered well, and he was basically the, your classic teenager.
I think, though, there is a scene from the trailer where he fixes the Ecto-1, and he's driving the Ecto-1. It's in every single trailer, so I don't think it's a spoiler to say that. Mm-hmm. But he fixes a car from the 80s in 2021. That's impressive, right? That it takes mechanical skill. And I think that part of the reason why this movie is good but not amazing to me is there isn't a lot of follow-through in character arcs from the beginning to the end of the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of setup, and there's kind of one character arc.
Mm-hmm. McKenna Grace gets a huge character arc as Phoebe Spengler, and she's great. She really carries this movie so well as the lead of the film. She's charismatic, she's funny, she's so charming.
Yeah.
And then...
I think the mom has an arc, but
But yes, Callie Spengler, played by Carrie Coon, who is really good in the movie as well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really, it's not about anything. And I think that this movie kind of falls into a trap that I think a lot of much later sequels fall into, in that they become about what happened in between. This movie has a lot of the same problems that I think that the Star Wars sequels have, where they have to spend so much time explaining what has happened since the last movie that you saw. Whereas if you haven't seen the last movie, a lot of that explanation doesn't have a lot of value to it.
And sometimes the what happened in between is infinitely more interesting. I think that is especially in the case of Star Wars. And
less so here.
Less so here, but definitely to a degree. Where you're like, oh, wait, how did we get here? There's a whole bunch of setup that has been done in the last, 30 years. And we touch on it. But, yeah, everything in this movie feels kind of surface level. Nothing really, digs in deep.
Yeah.
As far as character or plot or...
But what does kind of save the movie for me is that the comedy is actually really solid.
It was very funny.
Really good comedy, character-driven comedy. Paul Rudd is in the movie as Gary Gruberson. Another character who has kind of a lot of setup that doesn't kind of fizzles away. But he's so funny throughout the film, and he brings so much comedic heart to the film. Even in scenes where, the camera just lingers on him at the end of a scene, and he just, reacts to what just happened in a way that had the entire theater that we were in stitches, right? And so the comedy of the movie, I really liked also the friend character Podcast, played by Logan Kim, in I believe his like first movie role.
Oh yeah,
and
he was great.
Crushed it. Yep.
But that's about like his name is Podcast, and he has a podcast, and that's about as much information as you get.
And what's weird about this movie is that despite the fact that there isn't a lot of payoff for what is set up, it felt a little long.
It did.
It wasn't a short film.
No, it dragged a little bit in parts. The pacing was lacking in a lot of ways. Like, there was... it was probably only like 40 minutes in. I was like, this feels slow.
Yeah.
And like we weren't even halfway through the movie yet, and I was like, And then things picked up, and I think that there was definitely that sense of urgency definitely came through, but it took a while.
Sort of. I don't know. The sense of urgency really is in like the final moment.
Yeah, you're kind of right.
But one thing that the original Ghostbusters movie did so well is that they bust a ghost together as a unit, like 30 minutes into the movie. And the original Ghostbusters movie, like, it is an ensemble of leads, right? This movie has a lead character, and then there are characters around the lead character
that are not fully fleshed out.
But this movie is Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
And company.
Yeah.
And not Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And I think that is to the detriment of the film in the long term when you're watching it, because you just kind of are like, I kind of would like for someone else to do something.
Yeah, or for me to like care.
It also relies a lot on the lore of the original Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah.
Far more than I expected.
Yeah, but as someone who saw them when I was maybe like 8 and don't remember much of it, a lot was lost on me. And I think that you do a disservice to your movie if you are only targeting people who have seen the movie from 30 years ago. Maybe.
It depends on what kind of movie you're making, right? Like, if in a way this movie is a beautiful send-off to the Ghostbusters, and particularly to Harold Ramis. The original not the original, the only live-action Egon Spengler as far as I know. It is a beautiful send-off to that, and a beautiful, like, button on their story, if you're okay with what they do with the 30 years in between. Yeah. Or 40, almost 40 years in between. Jesus. And, you know, there was an interesting... I cried really hard at the end of this movie. And I said that I was going to. I knew that I was going to cry at the end of this movie. And there was a family in the theater with us. It wasn't a very packed theater, but there was a family in the theater with us, and I caught their conversation as we were passing them as we were leaving. And it was a mom and her kids, and she was crying like I was. She was, you know, emotionally moved, and her kids weren't. And they were asking her why she was upset. Like, you know, it wasn't the movie. And she was like, oh, no, it's because of the old movies. And I think that if I had never seen the original Ghostbusters movie, the emotional beats at the end of this movie are not that emotional. Yeah. They pull on me because I love those films so much. And the lore, you know, I cheered when I heard Zool. I cheered when I heard Gozer. I cheered when I heard things from the original movies. And so there's a part of me that, even as someone who I really enjoyed watching this movie, and I think Jason Reitman made a movie that I enjoyed, filled with like performances that I thought were really solid and CGI that I thought was much more solid than I thought it was going to be. I walked out of the movie going, is this a nostalgia cash grab for a generation of people that isn't going to like bring in the kind of cash that it wants? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. This is
very much geared towards people who know and love the original Ghostbusters and no one else.
I'm not sure that you're going to bring in a new generation of Ghostbusters with this movie. No. Even though you did, in many ways, satisfy me as a fan of the original films. Yeah. No.
No, I would agree with that. But
I think that's kind of it, right?
Yeah. The standout, definitely the comedy. I have to say, like, well done on that. Really very funny. Solid. But lacking in the story character development side of it, which is
on the back end
part of movies for me.
Interestingly, on the back end, the beginning of all these characters' arcs was fascinating. And, like, I was excited to see where they went.
It was like we saw episode 1, 2, and 3 of an 8-episode series.
Yeah, but no, it's like we saw episode 1, 2, and 8. And all the other side character stories were wrapped up in episode 7, so that like episode 8 was just the big battle.
That's
It kind of feels like episode 1, 2, and 8.
Yeah.
And there's just like there's some character arcs that it's not that they're not resolved. It's just that they just don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, particularly, there's a diner that, like, I was sure was going to be relevant to something. And
it's not.
Maybe that's a spoiler, but is it a spoiler to say something?
Diner in the...
Never
No, there's
matters?
a diner in the trailer. But yeah, there's tons of things that are introduced that you think are going to have some kind of payoff or connection, and they're just not utilized, unfortunately. So yeah, if you have some spare time, it's not a bad movie, but I don't think it's a great one. I think it's something that, you're hanging out with some friends and maybe you throw this on while you're having a drink and catching up with them. I don't know. It's not... yeah.
Do you want to talk spoilers?
Sure.
All right, well then, let's end this part of the video. We're going to do spoilers in this video. It's going to be one thing.
Spoilers.
So hopefully you've seen the movie if you're staying past this moment. But if you're about to leave, before you go... like the button. Like the button. Like the button.
Yeah.
Like the button. Dislike the button.
Comment
the
below.
memes.
Yeah.
This algorithm God's hungry and we must feed her.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the channel because
that would be nice.
That's how this works. You've been on YouTube.
You know what this is. Anyways,
or leave.
Spoilers. Do not come any further. First of all, I love that I recognize Olivia Wilde's cheekbones anywhere.
Oh, yeah. Olivia Wilde is in the movie.
Yeah.
So is J.K. Simmons in a cameo that...
is like nothing.
Literally nothing.
Literally a throwaway. Like, yeah, it was.
It was so funny. We did a trailer reaction to the final trailer, and someone commented on that video and was like, Ivo Shandor has to be in this movie. And I was like, the guy from the video game? J.K. Simmons. That's who he played. The guy from the evil, the big bad from the, I think it was a 2000, maybe 2009, I don't remember. Oh yeah, it says right here, 2009 video game. I was right.
Nice.
Y'all, high school memories kicking back in. Olivia Wilde, Josh Gad was the voice of Muncher.
Yeah,
the
so
like weird cameos in this movie that weren't like cameos. But should we talk about the cameos? Mm-hmm. Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Ernie Hudson all show up. As the original characters.
Yeah.
And so does Harold Ramis?
Yes, as a Force Ghost.
As a literal Force Ghost.
Yeah.
He's also the only one... The one thing about this movie that bugged me is they didn't play the end of that right. Because... So, what they should have done is... They get to the point where they can trap Gozer, right? And they turn on the thing, and Callie has to hit the button. But she realizes in that moment that if she hits the button, she has to trap the ghost of her father, Egon Spengler. And he should have, like, given her a nod or something, and they should have all tearfully said goodbye as all of the ghosts were trapped at the same time. Instead, they trap all of the ghosts, and then Harold Ramis is just there. And... I cried when he first showed up. When you see just his hand over McKenna Grace's, if that's all it had been, I would have been fine with it. I bawled. But then he's there, and he can't talk because he has passed on. Rest in peace to the incredible Harold Ramis, director, actor, writer extraordinaire, a man who has touched my life in so many ways. A true inspiration to me. Egon Spengler is my favorite Ghostbuster, has been since I was a kid. I love that character. And he's still there after all the ghosts are gone. And the movie doesn't really know what to do with him, so much so that there's that long shot. If you're here, you've seen it. Spoilers, right? Where all the other Ghostbusters just kind of like, hey.
Yeah.
And he's like...
Yeah, it's, like, kind of awkward.
It's awkward, and they didn't know... And then it is worth it, because you get the hug where he gets to his, move on. But I was like, you could have done this in a way where you didn't have him here for, like, 2 minutes... of nothing.
Yeah. They, I think that they wanted to, if they were going to use him in that way, I think that they wanted to do it justice, and they felt like they had to do that with screen time, as opposed to wait. Because like you said, if it had just been just the hand, or if we had like seen the face for a moment before it like faded, like anything. But like it is just kind of, because the other guys are like, yeah.
I think the magic of it, and I wish I could have talked about this in the non-spoiler part of the review, is that he is the second lead of the movie. Like, Egon Spangler has more of an arc than anyone except for Phoebe. And it's beautifully done. This way of handling an actor being dead but wanting to finish telling the character story, I thought they handled it really well. And I was really impressed with the grace with which they treated the character.
Yeah.
Not so much in the 30-year gap, which they do the same thing The Force Awakens does, which all of these movies do, where they're like, in the 30 years between these movies, we all hated each other. And I'm like, why did you...
That's boring.
But we keep doing it because we need conflict. And I'm like, God, it's you know... And I love the sequels, right? Like, I love those 3 movies. I think they're all great. But if I were to write them, the thing I would do differently is I wouldn't put Han, Luke, and Leia so far apart at the beginning of Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't need to see the story of them becoming friends again, which we never got. But it's just unnecessary because we've seen them do it.
Yeah.
But it is now becoming a trope in Hollywood cinema to do this thing where it's like, it's been 30 years and the people that you loved because of their chemistry and friendship and love for each other
decided they hate each other. Yeah.
And you know, you introduced Dan Aykroyd with him being like, Egon Spangler can go to hell. And I'm like, really? And they pay, it is a beautiful moment because then he finds out that he's actually dead and it is actually emotional and well done. And I'm not upset at it, but I'm just kind of tired of this thing that we keep seeing in these movies where it's like, well, now they don't like each other, but don't worry, give us 2.5 hours and they will again. And I'm like, oh, I've seen this.
Yeah.
I've seen them do,
I've
seen these characters do this.
Yeah, it was nothing new or creative.
Yeah. And the final fight, not very creatively choreographed, but emotional. And I'll take that over creatively choreographed every day.
Yeah, I would say so.
Although there is one shot, there is a point in the fight where there's actually 2 points at the end of the movie where the editing gets real weird. One of them is they're driving from downtown to the house and they're just suddenly at the house. Yeah. He's like, they're literally in the middle of downtown. He's like, hold on to something. Or I think he says coming in fast. And he turns and he's at the farmhouse. And I genuinely in the theater, I was like, what just happened?
Yeah, it was very weird.
And then the other is the 3 Ghostbusters are here. Gozer's here. And then McKenna Grace and Harold Ramis are over here. Right? And they're shooting. And then the 3 Ghostbusters and Harold Ramis and McKenna Grace are over here all of a sudden. Side, And I was like, how did they teleport across this giant field?
Yeah. There was definitely some inconsistencies. And how everything kind of came together at the end, I don't really know how that worked for me. Like, there was this big mountain and the 2 dogs, and then I guess they stole one of the dogs, which was very necessary. But, like, also, like, what is happening at the town right now? Because they kind of, like, made it seem like the town is being, like, ripped apart, and there's ghosts flying around everywhere and terrorizing people.
The marketing campaign was built on that shot of the ghost at the diner drinking the coffee, implying that there were going to be ghosts in town.
Yeah.
That ghost at the diner is the only shot in that sequence.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is the whole... I thought it was going to be like, oh my god, look at this small town overrun with ghosts. I thought we were going to see more in the movie, but in the movie it's that one shot.
Kind of like clutching their hats and looking at the sky and yeah.
I really the thing in the first part of our review that we were talking around about the arcs not really feeling satisfied. The town didn't end up getting involved, and so the placement of this movie was irrelevant. And they did such a good job, in my opinion, in the first half of the film, setting up Somerville, the inhabitants. The sheriff was a really interesting character who I wanted to see more of. The line cooks and other members of Spinner's Diner. I thought those characters...
The hardware store.
The hardware store guy. I thought that the small town was going to beat back the ghosts. And instead it was McKenna Grace did it. And that's fine. But the movie kind of led me to think that we were going to have a more of a community ending, and introduce a lot of characters who really Lucky Domingo. Do you know who that is? The girl that Finn Wolfhard is into.
Oh.
Literally had no purpose in the movie except
to be a crush and to be the 4th Ghostbuster.
Except to play MJ from from Spider-Man Homecoming. she's doing the same beat comedically that Zendaya plays in Homecoming towards Finn Wolfhard. The same sort of like, I'm gonna be mean to you, but I'm gonna be into you, girl.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same comedic joke, and I get it. It's a good one, and and I think that like Celeste O'Connor, who played the part, is funny and does a great job.
Yeah, she does it well, but it
just isn't really. It's not relevant.
Boring.
Anymore.
Yeah, it was boring. Like, she's like the fourth Ghostbuster that they bring in, and we know she's in high school, and her dad is a cop. And those are her only traits. And
she's sarcastic.
Oh, and she works at the diner. Yeah. But she, I don't know a damn thing about her.
I really wanted, like, the fact that she knows how to roller skate to come into the finale somehow. Or, like, something that they set up.
Something to give her... Because that fourth Ghostbuster could have been replaced by anybody. And I
thought it was going to be Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to get to be a Ghostbuster, but no, he's just...
No. But, like, that's what I mean.
Sex dog.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The sex dog part of this. And then, here's the thing. When Lucky becomes the second sex dog, I was like, wait, are Paul Rudd and the teenage girl about to fuck?
Yeah, that was a really weird choice. Yeah. It made me...
And then, Paul Rudd comes back, and Callie runs over to him, and is like, so yeah, we definitely boned, right? He doesn't say it like that, but like...
No.
So, before that, we had sex. And she's like, yeah, and then we saved the world. And he's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess that passes for consent in this movie.
There's a lot of weird
consent
stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I think I see what this movie is trying to do, and I think
it does a lot of it well.
I think it does some of it well.
But the Rotten Tomatoes score is like a 64 right now.
Yeah, I would give it a 6 out of 10.
I think that's fair. I would give it like a 7.25. I'd give it a 7. I give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, no, I give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. I think the family dynamic's really good in the first half. Mm-hmm. I like the first half of this. Weirdly, when there's no Ghostbuster stuff going on, this movie's better than when there is. My favorite parts of this movie, in terms of like movie making, are all the family dynamic.
It's weird because I loved those parts of the movie, but also the beginning of the movie felt so slow. So I don't really know, because I'm conflicted. Because you're right. I loved the joking. I loved the relationships. I loved the people in that first bit, and then we lost all of that. But then action stuff started happening. So it was, I don't know. It was really strange.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you saw the movie, tell us what you think down below. Do you agree with us?
Yeah. Is
this your favorite movie ever? Is this your least favorite movie ever? It's probably neither of those. Because it's not either of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, middle of the road.
If you like this movie more than either of the original Ghostbusters movies, please comment down below and tell me how. Not why, how.
How?
Because that would confuse me. Because I don't know that you can, I don't know that you can really love this movie unless you love those movies. Actually, no, if you like this movie but you hate those movies, that I do understand. They're dated and it's a style of comedy that doesn't really play anymore. I feel like for younger people, this movie would play better than, Ghostbusters would. I think it would be hard for someone who's, 16 right now to get into Ghostbusters unless you have a weird sense of humor.
I think it depends when you watched Ghostbusters.
Yeah, if your dad didn't show you Ghostbusters, it might be tough now to get into it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, I feel that. I'm pretty sure it was literally my dad who showed me Ghostbusters.
It was my friend Brendan Heal's father. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do remember that. I love that movie. That first Ghostbusters movie, perfection.
It's a lot of fun.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so quick. Yeah.
Yeah, this was fine. I don't know. Let us know what you think.
I liked it.
Yeah. Hit the like button.
I don't know that I would watch it again. I'm not gonna queue up Ghostbusters 1, 2, and Afterlife.
No, I'm
unless I want to cry. You know what? If I watch those 3 back to back, by the time I get to that last for Harold shot, ooh, if I need to clear out my sinuses, that might be a threesome I get into. Bye, everybody.
Bye.